Okay, maybe this isn't most people's deepest burning question, but every now and then we come across a particularly challenging banking topic. And understanding how to open a bank account in the Netherlands, well, that falls into that category. In fact, if you don't speak Dutch, don't have a BSN, which is the local tax ID, and you're a non-resident, well, get ready to join the thousands of people that struggle to open accounts each year. Fortunately, you've landed on this video, and with a bit of guidance, you're going to be just fine. But before we get started, make sure you hit the subscribe button and the notification bell so you get alerted every time we post new non-resident banking opportunities. Now, to help you get started with banking in the Netherlands, we have a free non-resident banking starter guide. It's designed to help non-resident and foreigners open bank accounts. So, don't forget to download your copy using the link in the description below. Okay, here's the truth about banking in the Netherlands. Clients from all backgrounds can open a bank account in the Netherlands. This includes non-residents, expats, international students, as well as certain foreign companies. But banking regulations in the Netherlands have changed. Account opening is more difficult and compliance is way more intense. Today, just finding a Dutch banker who is willing to entertain your application as a non-resident or a foreign company can be a struggle. But there are banks, branches, and bankers you can contact that actually want you as a client. So, in this video, we'll explore how to open a bank account in the Netherlands, the common mistakes foreigners and non-residents make, and along the way, we'll splash in a bit of context to help you understand why it's become so hard to open a bank account in Holland as a non-resident. Okay, here's a little Dutch banking culture 101. So the topic of how to open a bank account in Amsterdam is laced with nuances. The reason for this, quite simply, is that the Dutch banking sector, well, it's been on rocky footing for more than a decade. In fact, it's not really much of a stretch of the imagination to say that Dutch people hate bankers. Seriously, the majority of the population have massive trust issues when it comes to the Dutch banking sector. Bloomberg even wrote about it in 2019 in an article appropriately titled, "Why the Dutch Hate Bankers." And if you lived in the Netherlands from 2008 to 2015, well, it's kind of easy to understand why. 3 out of the 4 biggest banks in the country failed after the 2008 financial crisis. Then, in 2013, the 4th was nationalized. Well, because it couldn't stay afloat on its own due to speculative bets that it was taking on foreign real estate. Then, on top of all that, you have a series of highly publicized scandals, out-of-control banker bonuses, banks selling derivatives to welfare-esque organizations, labor rate manipulation, the list goes on. So if you were Dutch and not working in the banking sector, you were outraged. Imagine, all this is happening in a small country where the population has a high affinity for equality and cultural disdain for anyone in disproportionately well-paid positions. So, Dutch banks were slapped with strict rules, new heavy regulations, and higher capitalization requirements. As a result, banker salaries were slashed, and banker bonuses not only shrunk, they became regulated. Literally, no banker in the country is allowed to earn a bonus more than 20% of their annual salary. That's an actual law. So, what does all this have to do with opening bank accounts in the Netherlands? Well, the Netherlands is now home to a lot of underpaid, unmotivated bankers who are terrified to do anything that could get them in trouble. Add on to that every banker in the country has had to take the banker's oath and abide by a specific code of ethics. So now, if a banker or bank steps out of line or does something against a client's best interest, a customer can take that bank to court. As a banker, would you be motivated to onboard new clients in this environment? Especially when those clients are non-residents, foreigners, foreign companies, or otherwise fall outside of the normal risk parameters? Yeah, probably not. Here is the secret to banking in the Netherlands. Don't. Okay, that might seem a little bit mean, but unless you have a real reason to bank here, such as being paid by a Dutch company, owning real estate in Holland, or you're actually moving there, you can almost always find better banking elsewhere. Don't worry, we're still going to tell you how to open a bank account in the Netherlands. All we're saying is that there are usually better banking options elsewhere if you don't actually need to bank here. Now, let's shift gears and take a quick look at the benefits that people can access from banking in the Netherlands. Dutch mortgages and real estate. Some banks in the Netherlands are offering negative interest rates on mortgages. That means Dutch banks will actually pay you to take out a mortgage. So if you're an investor with a keen eye for Dutch real estate, a Dutch mortgage, well, that might become interesting. Next, foreigners and expat employees. The Netherlands has several tax incentives that have attracted multinationals, skilled foreign workers, and investors here since the late 1950s. And while the Dutch tax code overhaul of 2019 has made some of these benefits slightly less appealing, they can still be quite interesting. So, despite the challenges of opening accounts in Holland, Dutch banks and bankers actually do know how to work with foreigners. Of course, some branches and bankers are more foreigner-friendly and accommodating than others. Next, ideal access. People that actually live in the Netherlands will need to open a Dutch bank account in order to pay for daily expenses, cover the utilities, and more. To do this, they'll need to access Ideal. This is an online payment system that is widely used across the Netherlands. So, one of the main benefits of opening a Dutch bank account is accessing the Ideal system and supporting your day-to-day life. So now that you know most of the immediate benefits on offer, let's take a look at who should actually bank here. First, students studying in the Netherlands. If you're off to study in the Netherlands, opening a bank account here, it makes sense. In fact, it can be a relatively painless process as long as you have proof of your enrollment or a letter from your university. This will allow you to pay your tuition and cover daily living expenses without incurring additional transfer fees. Next, anyone living or working in the Netherlands. While solutions like Revolut and N26 can offer a lot of value to European clients in other countries, you're going to need a local bank account in the Netherlands. The reason for this is that many of the basic services and payments that you will need to cover as someone living or working in the Netherlands will only accept a Dutch bank card. Next, corporate tax efficiency hunters. Dutch lawmakers have been architects of international tax efficiency since the early days. Much like the British, the Dutch created their own tax havens in the Caribbean and effectively passed profits back and forth to reduce or eliminate taxes. In more recent years, they've created such profit-shifting mechanisms as the Dutch sandwich to enable international companies to avoid EU withholding tax. For the most part, such mechanisms are no longer available, and following an overhaul of the Dutch tax code in 2019, it seems like the Netherlands is trying to rebrand itself as a more legitimate place to do business. Now, who should bank outside of the Netherlands? As we've already talked about, there are groups that can consider banking here that would actually benefit from opening elsewhere. These include non-residents looking for EU banking. If you're a non-resident looking to bank in the EU, there are plenty of options to choose from. In fact, we've recently shared a number of EU banking opportunities with our GlobalBanks insiders. In many instances though, the minimum deposits are only a few $100s and the accounts can be opened 100% remotely. With this in mind, there's no need to jump through the extra loopholes that are required to open accounts in the Netherlands. Next, foreigners who visit the Netherlands on holiday. While we often discuss the benefits of opening accounts in countries that you frequent on holiday, the Netherlands is a rare case where we don't think this makes any sense. Given the amount of account opening difficulties, you're better off opening accounts in other countries that provide the same currency benefits but allow for easier account opening. Next, companies who don't actually need to bank in Holland. In most cases, having service providers, suppliers, or customers in a country is a great reason to open local bank accounts. But given the fact that your business generally requires a local presence in order to open with most Dutch banks, your chances of opening here are quite limited. With this in mind, depending on your industry, there are usually a range of alternative options that are better suited to meet your needs. If you're interested in learning more, just click the link below, let us know what you're looking for, and we'd be happy to help. Okay, what you came here for. If you're still committed to opening a bank account in the Netherlands, here's what you'll need to know to get started. If you're a resident of Holland, your first step is to make sure that you have your BSN and a work contract or housing contract. Most banks will require these two items. In most cases, you'll need to make an appointment before going in, but if you have all these documents in order, have an appointment, and you're a bona fide resident of Holland, you shouldn't have much of an issue. Now we come to how to open a bank account in Holland as a non-resident. If you're a non-resident, your best bet is going to be focusing on banks that actually offer non-resident or international banking services, more robust international divisions than others, and offer English support. Additionally, if you have a bank account elsewhere that has a relationship in Holland, you can try to leverage your existing relationship to find you a banker that actually might be able to help you. Of course, most non-residents also face the big question of how to open a Dutch bank account without a BSN. If you don't have your BSN, opening a bank account in the Netherlands is going to be nearly impossible. The BSN, which is short for Burger Service Number, is the registration number that anyone living in Holland receives from the government. This number allows you to work, access government services, pay taxes, and a whole lot more. For residents, this is obviously an incredibly important number. For non-residents, it's a nuisance that makes banking here bothersome. With this in mind, the short answer to how to open a Dutch bank account without a BSN is this. Some banks will allow you to apply for an account without a BSN, but eventually you will need to provide your bank with your BSN or your account will be closed. So instead of trying to open a Dutch bank account without a BSN, consider this. The Netherlands has a non-resident registration process to receive an RNI. Your RNI gets tied to your address in your home country instead of an address in the Netherlands. Once you receive this number, you will also receive your BSN on the spot. This is only available to people who do not spend more than 4 months in the Netherlands, but it's one way that you can acquire a BSN in person as a non-resident in Holland. Okay, are you ready to open a bank account in the Netherlands? Well, if you need help sorting out your banking options, are struggling with account opening, or just aren't sure where to turn, we can help. All you have to do is join our flagship service, GlobalBanks Insider. With GlobalBanks Insider, you'll get instant access to our entire archive of banking intelligence reports, access to the GlobalBanks database, home to more than 250 banks from 50 plus countries, including detailed bank profiles, client preferences, and a whole lot more. Finally, you'll also get real-time analyst support from our team of experts, ready to answer your most pressing banking questions and to make suggestions on which banks in the Netherlands and elsewhere will best meet your banking objectives. To get started, just click the link in the description below to learn more about GlobalBanks Insider. And before signing off, don't forget to hit subscribe so you get alerted every time we share new account opening opportunities. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.